Hello, Revere, and welcome to another show on the Revere Morris Show. Today I have a real special guest. He's a 16-year veteran of the Revere School Committee. Many of you know him out of Revere. He's a great friend of mine and a great friend of yours. His name is Fred Sannella. And Fred,
Morris,
thank you for coming.
Thank you, Morris.
Okay, tell us exactly what the functions are of the school committee.
Well, the functions in haste or waste are dependent on who you speak with. The overseeing of the proper people in the right place from superintendent on down. Not as much hiring as it was done years ago under the Ed Reform Act. That was all shifted to the superintendent. So the hiring totally is under the superintendent's jurisdiction. We're responsible for school nurses. We're responsible for director of the SPED program. We oversee the budget, the expenditures coming in from the state on appropriations, payment of bills, vendors, choosing the cafeteria program, which is coming up this year. It'll go out for bids again. So it's kind of a watchdog agency that is concerned about if the federal law, if state law is being adhered to. It's just kind of, it's factual, but day to day it's different. So you never know really what's coming down.
Right, now I'm going to throw this at you because since you mentioned that you was 16 years a member of the school review, what was it like when you first started as compared to what it is now?
Well, the interesting aspect, and just to step a little step back, I've been in education for 38 years before that. So between Carol, Ty, and I, we've got over 100 years service in the school department. The difference has been since being a former teacher, former administrator, we're in as it's much more steeped in Big Brother. The federal government mandating programs, the state mandating programs, the onus of responsibility coming from the non-performing. The teachers are responsible. They can be technically let go if the children don't test well. So there's more issues as far as responsibility.
I got a question for you, Fred, as a layman. What do they mean when they say the teacher has a tenure, if I got the word?
All right, years ago, teachers were tenured.
How do you pronounce that?
Tenured.
Okay.
After they 3 years of I want to say apprenticeship because it sounds unionist, but once you got your 4th year, you were tenured. And the only way that you could lose a job, I believe, was moral turpitudes, insubordination, and there was a third one, which never really happened. And it protected, I assume, some people that were incompetent and all that. But under the Ed Reform Act, that's all off the books. There's no more
there's
tenure.
no more tenure?
No.
Oh, that's good to know.
No.
Does the school committee decide what meals are going to be coming in for the kids in school too, or is that done by someone?
We go through the process. Let's see, this is the 5th year. One rolled over about 6 years ago. We went on site tours of different schools, different agencies, different vendors, and sampled what they had to offer and everything else, and then a decision is made of the panel made up of school committee members, parents, the finance person, and then all that would come into what the contract would entail and all that jazz. So directly, we're not responsible for the menu, we're responsible for picking the vendor.
Oh, I see.
The vendor, in turn, has to adhere to federal and state mandates as to low sodium, pizza crust now more or less whole wheat, and stuff like that.
Can the kids still bring their own lunch?
Of course they can.
Oh, okay.
Of course they can.
We used to do that too.
We all did. I mean, that was brown bagged it, or
Right.
some of them had the thermos in the lunch pail, which are now collector's items, you know?
Yeah. I remember those little pails.
Yeah.
Superman used to be on it, and the Smiling Jack.
Yeah. Hopalong Cassie started the whole thing.
Fred, I'd like to speak to you about something that's very dear to my heart.
Yes.
And that's the Reserve Forces Training Corps at Revere High.
The ROTC?
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
ROTC, okay.
Reserve Officers Training Corps, ROTC. Well, it's rather interesting. That started, I would give a guess, about 6 to 7 years ago. And I have to say, when it was proposed, a little doubt in me. I didn't know how it would be received in the school. You know, kids sometimes can be cruel and everything else. But I have to say, the program in its inception has just boomed. I mean, there's a waiting list. The kids take such pride when they wear their uniforms in school, and the other students go along with it. They have their ranking, like in the service, when you were in the service. My first experience with them was a Friday night football game, pouring rain, but they were going to present the colors. And they stood there and they unfurled the flags and they marched straight out. And from there on, it's been one step above the other. In fact, this year, we had to hire another instructor, which is 3 now, because the waiting list, Major Boa, I'm not sure of the name, but they're retired military people with whatever rank they had, and the government pays, I believe, 2/3 of their salary. So rather than lose some of the students, boys and girls, we extended it, so that took the waiting list down. So there's got to be maybe 200 to 250 kids that are involved. And pride, they have the snow angels in the winter. They shovel out seniors. They take pride in community service where they get points for it. And they just changed a scholarship that from the veterans group that will go to a student that's in ROTC, that's in the ROTC. So it's just a program that has grown leaps and bounds. They're amazing children.
Right, because I'll tell you, the American Legion and other veterans organizations in Revere contribute to ROTC and the school.
Yeah, well, that's where it's going. And you alluded to the fact that you reminisce that yourself, Mr. Bower, and myself used to do the flags at the cemeteries at Holy Cross and Woodlawn. Now the ROTC, they go in their uniform and they take pride in it like they're doing at Arlington National Cemetery. So it's really impressive to see.
Right. Now I'd like to ask you this here, and I'm one of them. There are 3 different types, maybe there are more, but I only know of 3. There's the public school, the private school, and the charter school. What is the difference between them really?
Okay,
The
public school we all know about. That goes back to colonial time,
Right.
the founding fathers, the educational aspect of it. So we'll get back to that in a minute. There's been programs that have been granted through charter, and that's basically a charter school is granted. They apply for specifics. They honor, we will do X, Y, and Z, and that's written in their charter. And they invite, they like to claim that they're a public school.
You mean anybody can open up and become a charter school?
Yeah. Basically, that's what it is. A group of people get together and they make a proposal, and if the Department of Education accepts it, and they have,
it has to be okay by
oh, definitely, and they have a facility, then they can go ahead and do it. And the downside is that they're public in that parents can choose to send their children there, but there's waiting lists, and children that are accepted, the money is drawn from the community where the child would be normally going to school. So in other words, if there are children from Revere going to a charter school, the state, whatever it is, say $15,000 a year, $13,000 a year, follows the student.
Oh, I see.
So that's less than's left in the community.
Right.
And I think that if you go back to last year on the ballot, there was a vote no on question 2. They wanted to increase charter schools unlimited. But just that, the figure alone, that there was $450 million that was taken out of public education. And it sounds well and good, but they're more selective. They do not have the programs that public school has for special needs, for advanced science classes, because they're mostly running on a wing and a prayer. We interviewed a woman who was a nurse at one of the charter schools for a job in Revere, and she was saying how that she had to attend a child that was injured on a playground, but it was like 3 blocks away. Most of them don't have cafeterias, they don't have gymnasiums, they don't have the facilities. But people perceive it to be better because it's more selective. Now, a private school is just what it implies, private. You pay a tuition, you pay to send your child there. To my knowledge, there's no money following that child, like is with the charter school.
Here's a question from a Mr. J that I got here. I'm not going to mention his last name. On the charter school, the teachers that teach there, do they have to have the same education, or they can have less or more?
They can have less. Anyone can have more.
Well, excuse me, then
yeah.
I could be a teacher at a charter school?
It's really, I mean, you have to have some credentials.
Oh.
But I alluded to your previous speaker that a teacher now has to have a master's degree. So a bachelor's degree is not adequate, so they have to have a master's degree. They don't need that in a charter school.
Right. The previous speaker also mentioned that they're looking for where you'll have to have a PhD degree soon to teach.
Well, it's everything. It's the same thing when we mentioned school nurses. A school nurse has changed so drastically that the legislation has changed. A school nurse, you can be an RN and work in surgery for brain surgery, but you can't be a school nurse. The standards are so stringent now.
Oh, are they?
And in all nursing, they have to have a master's degree. So it's not just a BS anymore, it's a master's in nursing. So, I mean, it's like everything else that's changed because, I mean, you have a little container or something, you give an aspirin or you take their temperature, call and send them home. You have children now with trachs that have to be cleaned. You have, because the trend in education is to take people out of restricted areas and include them in the normal everyday activities. So the nurse's role has changed drastically. Medication was a small little locked cabinet is now a monumental type cabinet. It's refrigeration. So it's changed drastically.
Let me ask this then. We were talking about food before, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Does the school have a I hope I pronounced it correctly, a nutritionist?
The school department per se does not, but the company that is
supplying the food?
Right, the one who has the contract,
Oh.
they have all that because those menus have to be planned out with calories, with sodium. I mean, everything is spelled out. So you can't have it lopsided that there's more sodium in this than in that. No, it balances out, and that's all from the federal government. President Obama and his wife, they were very much interested in the quality of food. The movement is freshness. The movement is local. Boston's going through a period now with their vendor that they were being made out of state, frozen, and then coming in. But they've got facilities now that they'll make them fresh and send them fresh.
Okay. Question now, another one. Civic. Do they have courses on civic in the schools now?
No.
Why not?
Time and learning, time and learning. There's only so much time that you have allocated for education. I taught social studies, and social studies is not, but we did just hire another history teacher, so I mean, history is still being done.
Well, that's like civic.
Well, but at one time, in order like to get your citizenship, you had to do it. In school, you had to do it. At Salem State, they had it. No more. There's no more history taught at Salem State.
Here's a good question, I think, and it is very good. We have a lot of people that are from different parts of the world here. Mm-hmm. Does the Revere High School take that into consideration? That people that, for example, cannot speak English?
Big time. I mean, there's, I know notices that go home are English, Spanish, and Arabic.
Right.
And that's not to say that any parent, whether it's at a core meeting or a meeting with a teacher or a principal or even come before the school committee, that translators are available. And it kind of balances the scale. I can remember my grandmother saying the English in the house, that's how she learned to get her citizenship. We're in as now it's the trend, whether you go to a hospital or whatever, it's multiple languages.
My mother, when she came to this country, spoke hardly any English, but she went to night school. They had a school. Do they still have night school?
They have courses.
At night?
Yes.
Oh.
You can take English and no charge, but if you take a foreign language, you got to pay for it.
Oh, so if, in other words, if you want to learn Spanish or Arabic or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my understanding. But it's not, night school in those days was related to your citizenship.
Okay, then let me say this in a nice way. There's a lot of people out there that, including me, that don't speak good English, especially the ones that come from overseas. How would they apply if they wanted to stick a night?
Well,
they just go to the school?
Right. Well, the program, the after-school program, the evening program is run through the City of Revere. So there's a website where they can look on there. They have a director and they have people that are in charge of it. And pamphlets do go home. There are pamphlets posted, I'm sure, at the senior center.
Yep.
A number to call or a website. So, in fact, they're in the process now, tomorrow, September 1st, that these programs will be starting relatively quickly.
Right, so they can go on the computer if they
Yes.
get it?
Yep.
Or, excuse me, or they can call the school and get the information
Yes.
from the school?
Yep. Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the chairman of the Historical Society. Did I?
That was back in, well, I was chairman of the Bicentennial Commission back in when the Bicentennial was 76, and then Bill Reinstein, rest his soul. There was a historical commission that really didn't have much going for it, and he appointed me as chairman, and a lovely group of people that worked with it. Former City Clerk John Henry was on it. And we started with minimal budgets and stuff, but we were able to, most people don't even realize that in City Hall there is a stained glass in the council chamber.
Yep, I see that.
And it's on the other end where the treasurer's office is, but that used to be they used to have dances there and everything else. And it's the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And it illuminates and you can see it, but there was such debris up there and everything. We had that clean. We repaired the clock at City Hall. We redid the burial ground, the Rumney Marsh burial ground, where the cannonballs were mounted. No one had them, so somebody got a basketball, cut it in half, filled them with plaster of Paris, put them together after, painted them black, and you can't tell the difference.
By the way, there's a great gentleman out there in the City of Revere. I hope he's listening. Mr. Jeff Perman.
Jeffrey, the history of Revere.
Yeah, right.
Oh, he's an adjunct professor at Salem State. Jeff.
He's teaching?
Yeah.
And so was my granddaughter, a teacher there.
Yeah.
At Salem
Small
State.
world after all. But it's just, and then we started the Christmas concert in conjunction with Wonderland Dog Track. So here you had the church and the gambling establishment, and we just celebrated the 40th anniversary of the concerts. It's still going strong, and it was really nice. So we pulled off a few little things.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, it's come across the board here. Ask about the new high school study. Are they going to be actually building a new Revere High School?
Well, let's put it this way, Morris, and I think in fairness to the taxpayers, in fairness to the citizens of Revere, we have 5 brand new schools. And the
new ones? 5 of them?
The Hill School.
Yeah.
The Wayland Complex with the Susan B. Anthony. The Rumney Marsh Academy. The Paul Revere School. Those are all within the 10-year. That comes under former Mayor Hass, rest his soul, who started that program back then.
Wow.
The State Building Assistance Bureau comes in and kicks in X amount of dollars, but some of those looking at a new high school, something in the tune of $300 million. They're using their own land. We definitely need one. The science labs are, they're still certifiable, but it's coming that day. We don't have the land. You don't have the land. So that means that the city, somewhere along the line, is going to have to, by eminent domain, take over property, which requires an expenditure. If there's a business on site, they can sue for lost business and everything else. You have 2 massive areas, Suffolk Downs and Wonderland.
Right.
Open space. I think someone mentioned that probably 10 acres could help out to build a new high school. Now, whether or not part of mitigation of either Suffolk or Wonderland when it comes in, that they put aside 10 acres of land for the city, whether or not the city has to take it by eminent domain, but somewhere that's what's going to happen. The plan is, with the superintendent's overview, is that a new high school will be built. The present high school will become the middle school. So you won't have the Garfield Middle, you won't have Susan B. Anthony, and you won't have a lottery.
You'll just have one middle school?
One central school where they will come. That will free up elementary seats in the other schools.
Right.
So it's a sound plan. It's something that has to be, it will be in the near future.
I don't think my suggestion is, I think it would be dangerous, maybe I'm wrong, to build a new high school at the dog track, the Wonderland dog track where it is now, because of the traffic of the highway there with the kids going and kids coming.
But the high school kids, they're all bused. So that's immaterial. So, I mean, what you're saying, Morris, is no matter where they build it, there's going to be traffic and there's going to be stuff like that.
Yeah, but it won't be heavy traffic, what I meant.
Wonderland owns beyond the railroad tracks that backs up to Necco. There is land in there.
But there's a hotel there.
No. This is, the hotel is here, Necco, and then there's some land. They're
I see what you mean.
They're parking 300 or 400 cars there now.
Right.
And it backs up below the Revere School. So with that, you could have access from Revere Street. I mean, but it's going to take a little more planning.
That would be like across the street from the field of the high school now, on the other side, where they park all those cars.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's a proposal. I know that we applied for the building assistance. There were schools that were much needier than we were, and we're on the list this year. So I think that'll give an indication as to approximate cost, approximate reimbursement. Everything comes down to money, Morris. Everything comes down to money.
You're right.
But we've got a class school system. Our school openings, the Hill School last week opened on the 21st because they have an extended year, and the rest of the schools opened on this Monday, and we have an innovative school, which is the Revere, the first one that was in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where they kind of have their own school board and they kind of set their own calendar. We brought them back in this year under their own our calendar, the school calendar. So there's just a lot going on in Revere, and we put out an excellent product.
Right, we got about 6.5 minutes left, so you got so much here, Fred. That's good. You're a former, election commissioner.
Yep.
A past vice president of the Lincoln School.
Well, at the PTA, that was
right,
that
and
was
a
with the
past
territory.
president of Revere City Council. Tell us a little about each one of them.
Well, the Lincoln School, it was just a very active PTA, and as a teacher there, we took an active role in
What subjects did you teach, if I may ask?
I taught, when I first started, I was a 6th grade self-contained, which meant you taught everything.
Oh.
And then the next year, Rocco Malafitano, the principal, and then he became superintendent, departmentalized. So what that did was, I taught all social studies, somebody taught all English, somebody taught all math, so that children changed, even though it was 5th and 6th grade, because the Lincoln in those days had a middle school upstairs, a junior high. That's a term they used.
Right,
so the children got used to changing. They got used to a different teacher, so that if someone didn't like a teacher, the kid didn't like a teacher, they knew in 40 minutes they were going to somebody else, and it worked out wonderfully. It was just an experiment, someone innovative in education, and it worked out beautifully.
That's fantastic. You're also here, we talked about the 14-year member of the Revere School Committee. What is exactly a vice chairman on there?
Well, the vice chair, in lieu of absent of the mayor, who is the chairperson of the school committee.
Right, so you were
chairs
second
the
in command,
meetings, chair the meetings, appoint the subcommittees, and you act as a clearinghouse.
Right. Now, how many people are on the school committee?
There are 6 elected members as the school committee, and 1 the mayor as chairperson.
Right.
That's
so
his banner.
there's always enough people that you have to have a vote, so it won't be even.
Well, it's 7 members.
Right.
So with the mayor present, if the mayor were to be absent or another member were to be absent, it could come to a 3-3 vote.
Right.
Yep.
Oh,
that could
okay.
happen. That could happen.
Okie dokie. Look. Let's see what. I don't know what CAG has Boston.
Well, I have a bachelor's degree in education. We were talking about a bachelor's degree in education from Salem State, a master's degree, and a certificate of advanced graduate study, which is parallel to a doctorate. In other words, you could go for a CAG or you could go for a doctorate, but in those days, it wasn't that easy. A doctorate was, so now a person doesn't have to go for a CAG and go for a doctorate. So the advanced degrees mine were in administration, so I ended up as an assistant principal at the Wayland School.
Is the education today a lot harder than it was? I mean, the teaching of the education to the kids today harder than when we were young or when I was young?
I would say so, because of the demands that are being placed, the accountability, what should be, what could be, what they want to be, do this, do that, do this, do that, and somewhere along the line we don't allow them to be children. You know, I mean, you know, it's just what society demands of it. And it seems every time society breaks down, they put it on the school. You know, we feed them breakfast, we feed them lunch, and that's another thing. Everyone in Revere, every student in Revere gets a free breakfast. There's part of a program that came out. So they're experimenting now with grab and bag. When they come into school, they're going to have the breakfast already in bags, and they'll take it to their classroom, get their opening work, and have their breakfast. Because when they serve the breakfast, there's only allocated X amount of time, because then the bell rings and you move on, so some don't get to finish their milk or their juice. So this is, I think this is a pilot program. It may be at the Par Revere. There are other school systems that do it. And it's you know, it's a grab and bag, you know, and the kids like it. It's, you know, it's more convenient for them. You know, a little bit of mess, maybe the custodian's not too happy about it, but, you know, but it's, you know, everything's for the kids. I mean, you try to make it as convenient and happy, you know, because the kids would say to me such and such a thing. This, well, why can't it be fun? Why should education have to be have a
like a military academy?
Right. You know, I mean, this is it. You have a laugh, and you know, learning it doesn't hurt. It's painless.
Right. By the way, Fred, we got a minute and a half, so take a minute to wrap it up.
Well, I can kill that in an hour, but I think that people, the taxpayers of Revere, should be very pleased with the product that we put out, and parents with children. You have rights up to you can come in, you can talk to anyone you want, you make appointments with interpreters, as we talked about. It's online now, you can get the results, you can get anything. It's amazing what is taking place in education, so please avail yourselves to it. Don't be a stranger. And needless to say, the school department can't do it alone, you can't do it alone. Together, in partnership, we can make Revere and continue Revere's greatness. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred, for
Morris,
coming on
my pleasure.
here. God bless you, and good luck to you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And to the people of Revere, thank you for tuning on and listening to us. And God bless all of you, and God bless our military. But most of all, God bless our great country, the United States of America. And thank you all. Till the next time we meet again, thanks again.